and welcome to the Macaw Podcast universe. We are in the throes of the series Finds a Way, Jurassic Park, and we have made the transition from Series A, this is like Site A, Jurassic Park series, and now we're in Site B, the Jurassic World series.
That's very funny. Yeah.
Came to me just now. And as is what's been happening on this series, we are joined by another guest.
Yes, this guest is very special today. All our guests are special, of course.
They all are.
But this guest is one of our self-proclaimed biggest fans, which she definitely is, and one of my oldest friends, and host of the Salt and Pepper podcast, Olivia Stinton.
Oh my gosh. Hi, I'm not self-proclaimed. I actually am your biggest fan. And I'm also not your oldest friend in age. Okay, I'm your oldest friend just time-wise.
No, in terms of we've been friends since we were about 6 months old. Well, for me, you're older than me. But
yes, I am. I mean, Veronica and I grew up since our moms were pregnant. So it's been a long time. Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like I'm there with you guys. This is so exciting.
Yes, and this is our podcast is turning into a murderer's row of guests because we've had Daniel Grissom, Lauren Panter, Olivia, Chloe, my sister. We've had Nick Turner and Lyra Smith. We've had Kyle Woolard, and we've had Jeremy and Dan Eden, and there's gonna be more, folks. We keep on getting stinking guests, but you're our last one for a while.
So you saved the best for last.
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to say any comment about that because I want everyone to come back. So, let me start. Okay. I would like to start. I'm gonna warm the waters a little bit here with my first experience with Jurassic World.
Sure.
So it's been years and years and years, and a trailer, like they announced they're making Jurassic World, and I'm kind of thinking, well, the previous couple of movies haven't been super awesome. It's time for the series to die, is what I'm thinking. Yeah. And this is definitely in the height of my like snobbery film criticism.
Yes.
And so I'm like, okay, whatever. Some director I don't know, but he's done like an indie movie. That could be a good sign. And then
any snob would think so.
Yes. And then they release the first footage they released from this movie, if I'm remembering right, is the scene where Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt are talking outside of his trailer.
That's the trailer?
That was
like
the
opener?
Was the first like scene they released to get people excited, and I was like, uh-oh. This is not good.
That's a very odd choice.
Yes.
It's probably because there was product placement in those scenes, which I hate, and so they probably put those in there as the commercial.
Yeah.
Well, and like, especially if you don't see the movie, you'll see if we agree or disagree with the statement in a little bit. But you're like, oh my gosh, these are like old, like archetypal stereotypes of a man and a woman that are like so outdated. It's crazy. So I'm like, okay, interesting. And then the trailer comes out and I see a lot of CGI. And at the time I was like, oh my gosh, CGI equals bad. I didn't have a more, like intricate view on the subject.
Sure.
And so I was like, this is going to be really stupid. Then I go see the movie. And I was like, I kind of liked that movie. That was pretty good. And then I took my dad to see it for either his birthday or Father's Day. And he was like, yeah, that was pretty good. And then I hadn't seen it again until last night.
Okay.
Well, I'll do theater stories later. But that's where I was at. I was at like, this was pretty good. Probably the best of the sequels besides Lost World because I love Steven Spielberg.
Okay. And then I'll go with mine. And then Olivia, we want your Jurassic Park
We need the whole rundown. We need the whole rundown.
Okay. This is my Jurassic World experience. This is the first Jurassic Park movie I've ever seen. I had never seen Jurassic Park before this, which is, why would I go see this movie? Probably because I liked Mike at the time and he saw it. And I'm like, well, I want to see everything he liked.
Your love story started with dinosaurs.
So I went with two of my friends and the movie was just kind of like, I had no connection. I didn't care a little bit about anything, but my theater experience was very interesting. There was people far down sitting closer to the screen, and eventually like there was this huge fight happening, and no one was watching the movie for a good 5 to 10 minutes because we needed to see how it resolved. It wasn't like a physical fight, but it was like yelling.
What was they yelling about?
I just assume it was someone talking behind someone else. It's just someone finally did something about it, but it did not. It escalated. And I think one of the dudes left, and it's like, okay, we're good. Then he came back.
Uh-oh.
And I think they fought more, and then I think he finally left.
Jeez Louise.
That's really what I remember from my first time, and I have not seen it since then until last night when we watched it.
Okay. So Olivia, lay on us your Jurassic Park overview and then zoom into your Jurassic World.
Okay. I'm ready. I've been practicing my whole life for this moment. Okay, so I was actually trying to think about this because I know you guys ask the history of why you like these movies, and I really cannot pinpoint when I started to love dinosaurs so much. I don't know if I'm regressing back into being a 6-year-old, but I just loved dinosaurs. And I think, when I was little, because the first one came out when in 95 or something. Is that right?
93.
So the year we were born. So I obviously didn't watch it for a while. And then I remember being really scared at the T-Rex part when he eats the guy, because that part is just it's so aggressive if you're 9. And
we talked about, you're going to hear the episodes when they air, but on Jurassic Park, we spent a lot of time on the T-Rex scene and how it's possibly at least up for debate in the greatest horror scene.
Yeah.
It's
of cinema. It's so
very
scary.
The whole part of them being in the Jeep and then and it's real too. And that's a real head. And I'm I would be scared as an actor with that thing.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so then I think I saw Jaws, and then I just grew this fascination for things that were prehistoric. And I think it's because I love Disney, I know you guys love Disney too. And I think dinosaurs for me are this thing of this is kind of a real life fairy tale, but I know that dinosaurs eat people, so that's the wrong word to use. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's
I understand in terms of epicness. Yeah, comparing the two,
they were real. These things were walking around. Yeah, that's so wild to me that these things. And I was doing this research that the Mosasaurus thing that they show in the Jurassic, that thing was real. They found remains of it in 2013. So it's stuff like that.
That's where I'm horrifying. That is real.
I know. But one thing, side note, that's so funny is that it could barely see and barely hear. So it could only hunt by smelling. So
jeez, no wonder it died.
I know. So it's just funny stuff like that, I guess, that made me just fascinated. Anyway, so I always loved the Jurassic Park movies. And then when I saw Jurassic World come out, I think I just got onto the ground and just laid flat and just was oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And not because I was excited for this new epic movie, but it's it was coming back, It's that feeling when you saw the new, Star Wars was rebooting and then you get kind of used to it and then they draw them out and it's annoying. But anyway, so I saw Jurassic World in theaters 5 times. And
Whoa!
I was obsessed. And again, it wasn't about psychoanalyzing the little things of the acting like I did last night when I watched it, but I was just so happy that there was another dinosaur movie. And then of course Jurassic World 2 came out and I was no thanks. But
you didn't like Fallen Kingdom?
I think they could have done so much better, mostly because I saw that the original premise was supposed to be a hybrid of human and raptors in war. And I was that's so kind of stupid and scary, but still better, I think, than the same premise they've always done of dinosaurs eating people. Anyway, that's my drawn out. I don't know. I love it. I know there's issues with it, but I still love it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do, now that we've come back around, I do just have to tell a kind of a funny story that happened to me when I first saw this movie.
Yeah.
So I saw it with Sean Siders. You may know him as Mogasaurus, and he has done the theme song to these Jurassic Park episodes, so check that out. Well, you would have. You're listening to the episode. What am I talking about? But he he like was obsessed. He still is obsessed with Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park 1, his favorite movie. And so I was like, I have to see this movie with Sean.
Yeah.
So we went and saw it. It was Sean, Grayson, and I. And sitting in front of us was this person that I went to high school who was a bully in high school.
Yeah.
Not necessarily to me, but he
elementary school through high school. This was the bully.
Yeah. And he was with his wife. And then someone else came up and there was an empty seat. There was an empty seat next to him. And person number 2 from high school walks up. And
very nice person from our
very
school.
Nice, like one of those
nicest.
quiet people that does their own thing.
Yes.
And he walks up, and then Bully's wife turns to him before the movie starts and goes, "You don't sit here. You do not sit here." And this is opening weekend, by the way. Get out of this
front
area.
Of a lot of people.
Get out. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I don't want them to know that I'm there. And then
Did Grayson know who they were?
I was pointing it out to Grayson.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
And I see person number 2, like on Arrested Development when George Michael hangs his head and walks away, and it plays
sad Peanuts music.
He like walked down and sat in the front row of the theater by himself, and he never came back up.
That breaks my heart.
You guys and your experience with this movie is. Man, dinosaurs, they wow people up.
I think, was it? Then the last episode,
Yep. Jeremy and Dan were talking.
They had a very weird experience with Jurassic Park 3, seeing it in theaters.
Like a bunch of old people like heckling the movie.
Yeah, like the whole time. And it's like, is there something about this franchise that just allows people to just be whoever they are, like at home?
Wow, that's actually so weird.
So let's jump into the production of this movie.
Okay.
This is the meat, okay? And you know what's been kind of odd is a lot of times when we do these big franchises, I'll start off with a ton of notes. And, as we go, I have less and less notes.
Yeah. But this is, is this considered a reboot in some ways?
This is a reboot. Yeah, they would consider it that. But all of the Jurassic Parks have had so much production stuff to talk about because it's been such a weird ride. So the movie is directed by Colin Trevorrow, which I heard in an interview, and that's how he says his name. Sorry, guys. I'm not trying to be uppity.
Did Blank Check pronounce it Trevorrow?
I think so.
Okay.
Unless it was a joke, but it was like an interview between him and Chris Pratt, and Chris Pratt said Trevorrow, and he said, "You finally got my name right for the first time." So
it's common to pronounce it wrong.
I think so.
Okay.
It's produced by Frank Marshall and Patrick Crowley. Among others, Spielberg's in there and everything. The screenplay is written by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, who wrote Mulan, War for the Planet of the Apes, In the Heart of the Sea, and all the new ape movies.
Okay.
Oh.
And
I
then
like Mulan in there.
Yeah, I know. It's so random. Is that the new Mulan or the old one?
Oh, crap. I'm pretty sure it was the old one.
Okay.
And then Derek Connolly and Colin Trevorrow are writing partners, and they worked on Pikachu, that movie Monster Truck.
Yeah.
That had the like monster inside the truck.
It was a literal monster truck.
Yeah. Kong Skull Island, and then of course Colin Trevorrow's first movie, Safety Not Guaranteed.
Wait, Trevorrow wrote Kong Skull Island?
Well, I didn't take my notes super well, it looks like, because I think some of these Colin was not involved.
Okay.
But they are writing partners. So it's like he's written all the movies that Colin has written on, plus like Monster Truck, Pikachu, and Kong.
Detective Pikachu?
Yeah, Detective Pikachu.
Okay.
And then Safety Not Guaranteed. Okay. Story is by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver. We have the music by Michael Giacchino, who we've talked about on this podcast several times, I believe, because he did the score for Spider-Man Far From Home. I actually kind of felt like his score wasn't super awesome in this movie.
John Williams didn't do it?
What's that?
Didn't John Williams do the original?
Yeah.
He did the first two movies,
so they just adapted his music into this new score?
Yes, yeah, and then writing new songs. But I feel like there was parts of it that I was like, ugh.
The only parts I liked were the original, like the original
Yeah,
ones.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's like all I care about.
Yeah, me too.
But that's a hard job adapting a John Williams score. You know what I mean? Like, how do you do that?
And
it's too iconic.
For a great Michael Giacchino store? How about score?
The store where you buy all of his music, and
because it's like maybe this one was pretty underwhelming. Sometimes it's like, I don't know, he's just trying to, like Olivia said, like just kind of carry on what someone else did. But see, Super 8, great score by him, and Coco.
Yeah. Oh, the score for Coco. Come on.
Yeah.
I wonder why they didn't get John Williams to do this one.
I wonder if it was just scheduling.
Well, I mean,
conflicts.
he's getting pretty old. I mean, recently he's pretty much only done the new Star Wars episodes, not even the Solo or Rogue One, but the Star Wars episodes.
Didn't the last one he said that's his last one?
He said that he won't do another Star Wars.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I meant.
He's 88.
Yeah, that's
He's a little old.
He's done
I guess.
enough.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Fine.
And then this, Olivia, you're going to be very excited about this person.
Okay, I'm ready.
So hold on to your hat.
Okay.
John Schwartzman did the cinematography from this movie. Now, you may know him from many movies, but to name 3 of them, he did A Simple Favor, he did the Netflix movie Highwayman with Woody Harrelson, and he did the cinematography to National Treasure 2.
I feel like everyone listening, my movie tastes are pretty appalling, I guess. But I'm very excited for National Treasure 3 because that means you guys have to cover it. So,
I am so
we
into
are
that.
So there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I haven't seen National Treasure since I was very a kid, and I loved those movies.
They're
I
so
love
much.
them too. I haven't seen them since.
yeah, the best.
That
I watch
was
them all the
before.
time.
That's before I became self-aware of who Nicolas Cage is as a person, and
Yeah.
how it kind of like ruins anything he acts in once you figure him out.
I know. Ugh, that's funny.
But
That's cool though.
I could be, maybe I'm just wrong, but I feel like those movies rip.
Yeah, me too.
One of my favorite scenes in the first movie is when they're like go to the clock tower, you know, that they get from like the dollar bill, or I don't remember exactly how they get there, and they're like, dang, we missed it. How are we going to find it? And then one of them goes, hey, daylight savings wasn't invented yet. We still have an hour or something like that. And I'm like, whoa!
I know.
I remember freaking out when they had the declaration and they started putting like lemon juice on it and then like blow drying it. And I was like, holy crap.
Hey, for a Disney movie, I know there's probably plot holes, but I think they did a pretty good job of explaining everything decently. I mean,
I think so too. It's
And
like a
music.
fun historical heist movie.
And
it's the
like,
best.
I would love to sit down and watch it again, and then like watch Indiana Jones right before or something, because
Yeah,
it's
that would
like,
be interesting.
it's like instead of when they made the sequel to Indiana Jones, which is kind of strange and all over the place, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it's like, well, you can kind of consider like National Treasure as like an adaptation of Indiana Jones. You know what I
Or
mean?
an homage too in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
Oh, I love it.
But maybe, you know, one day we'll cover it. When they come out with a new movie, we're going to do it leading up to the release.
Well, it's going to be about aliens because that's where the second one ended off. It was about Area 51, and that's why I was pissed when they didn't
That's
come out with a
right.
third one.
Oh my gosh. And didn't the second one kind of ended not with a cliffhanger, but with was it the president? The guy
Yeah.
was like basically said something like, "Oh, there's going to be more."
Yeah, it was like actually
Yeah.
fully a cliffhanger. He like handed him the book and he goes,
Yes.
"Mr. President, is this what I think it is?" And it was
Yes.
Area 51 and he goes, "I don't know. I guess we'll have to see." And then it like goes out and you're like, and it's like 10 years later. I'm like, where are
No,
they?
I want it so bad. I want that movie. Nicolas Cage always needs some money. Just make the movie.
Seriously. Ugh.
Okay, so Jurassic World, we're back, folks. Comes out June 12th, 2015, and the budget of this movie is $150 million. Domestically, it makes $652 million, which is almost the amount that The Lost World made total.
Oh, wow.
And then it makes $1.670 billion.
A lot.
I remember it broke like a ton of records when it came out.
Yeah.
So this is like I think it's in like the top 10, 15 movies ever made, box office wise. But now let's zoom in and let's go back to the year 2001. A movie called Jurassic Park 3 comes out, and it comes out to very mediocre reviews, and fans and everybody's kind of like, ugh, you know. But they immediately are like, we got to make Jurassic Park 4. And they start getting all these teams together. And basically from 2001 until, I want to say like, until they hire Trevorrow, which is like 2012, 2013, we're talking so many drafts of this movie. Originally, it's going to be Jurassic Park 4. And one of the ideas is Sam Neill and Ian Malcolm are tracking the migration habits of dinos who have migrated to Costa Rica and find them on an island breeding like crazy. So that
would be kind of interesting because you had Ian Malcolm in one, or in his own movie, and then you had Sam Neill alone in his own movie too. So then the fourth movie, bring them together.
Yeah, but it's also the plot of the second movie, where it's like they're breeding on this island. You got to go in there.
Oh, I guess that's true.
And I feel like at that point, because they've both almost died so many times, you would probably stop going back to an island filled with dinosaurs. You would
think that in the third movie when Sam Neill was given a fat check to go back to the island, and it's like, dude, do you really need money that bad?
I guess so. He did in the first one too.
Yeah.
So then, in 2004, there's a new script, and they abandon the idea of another island in favor of dinosaurs being trained to use weapons. Now, I'm going to read a poll directly from Wikipedia, and this is wild. So John Sayles wrote 2 drafts for the film. In his first draft, Isla Nublar and InGen have been taken over by Grendel Corporation, a Swiss holdings company, while creatures from the island have begun attacking people in Central North America. It featured a brief return to Isla Nublar and would focus on a mercenary named Nick Harris, and it was going to involve like the DNA that was lost in the first movie.
Okay.
The Barbasol can.
Yeah.
And then
that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they never did anything with the Barbasol can. It's like such a setup.
Yeah.
And then at some point in one of these drafts, the dinosaurs would be equipped with body armor and would use their teeth and claws as weapons. And there would be hybrids containing human DNA for intelligence and dog DNA for obedience. And the script focused mostly on the efforts of Harris and a team of experts as they train the dinosaurs. Hammond would be the only returning character in this draft. And they were going to be like on a rescue mission and combating drug dealers.
Unbelievable.
So that's what they wanted to do for Jurassic World 2 then. They like had an adaptation of that.
Oh, okay.
They probably, because they didn't do it for this one, they're like, guys, we still have that idea.
Yeah.
Well, and don't let me forget, but I have a thought that comes in with all of this about where the series is going to go.
Okay.
Oh, but I'll talk about that.
I looked it up. You can see the premise for the third one. It's going to be wild.
Well, you'll have to hit us with that later.
Okay.
And then, but Spielberg, so, okay. Basically, they had all this. So Brad Bird was in talks with Kathleen Kennedy to direct Force Awakens.
What?
So he was in talks to direct Force Awakens, and he suggested...
I'd like to see a Star Wars movie by him.
I would love to see a Star Wars movie by him. He suggested that she have Trevorrow take over pre-production of Force Awakens so that he can finish Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
And then this prompts Kennedy to watch Safety Not Guaranteed and Spielberg as well, and they both agree that he's the man to do Jurassic World. So they have him come in, write a draft with his writing partner and stuff. And Trevorrow, like, he says, like, I want to write it. Like, we should write it. Because there's a lot of, for all the bad things people say about Trevorrow, I think he reined this movie in from what it would have been.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was going to be all over the place, even more so than it is. And he was like, okay, let's cut this. Let's streamline this. So I got to give him credit for that. And Spielberg had 3 requests for the movie. 1, functioning park. 2, human with trained raptors. And 3, human eating dino that escapes. And then...
human eating dino. A dinosaur that eats a human?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a human that eats a dinosaur.
Yeah, I worded that bad. And then finally, we have 2 more notes. Although Chris Pratt, just speaks to the good old-fashioned sexism in Hollywood. Although Chris Pratt received top billing in the cast, Trevorrow stated that Howard's character Claire is the lead character. And yet she did not receive top billing for the movie.
That's cool.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And then finally, Stan Winston, the guy who like creates the dinosaurs from the first movie and has been involved in all 3 productions.
The guy with the weird hair. That wasn't that.
No, that's Dan Muir, I think is his name.
That's right. Yeah.
But Stan Winston makes all the like animatronics. He died in 2008, so he did not work on this movie. This is the first one he did not work on.
Okay.
And that's the notes I have for Jurassic World.
Okay, I'm going to blaze through this actor thing. So Micah reminded me that, okay, so I've covered Chris Pratt in Guardians. I actually remembered for once that I had already covered someone. And then also, I believe we have covered Bryce Dallas Howard in Eclipse. So there's that. Oh, I did want to mention, I don't know if I mentioned in Eclipse. Did you know that she directed one episode of Mandalorian?
Yes, it was my least favorite episode.
Yeah, it was like the worst reviewed episode.
Oh.
Which is unfortunate.
I don't think she did a bad job. It was just, there's this thing that shows do where whenever they have a mercenary character, they do the story of Seven Samurai, no matter what universe it is, no matter what, where it's like there's a village and they need a mercenary to help them and they have to like train them to fight. And I'm just tired of seeing that story in everything.
So that's what the episode was?
Yeah, it was like he helped the village out, like defeat this leftover Empire troops.
Okay.
And I'm just like, again?
Okay. Ty Simpkins, who plays the boy, who I can't remember if I covered, but he's in Iron Man 3. He's also he's the kid in Insidious, and he's in Nice Guys.
The younger kid or the older kid?
The younger kid.
Oh, he's such a good actor.
I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
I think we raved about him in Iron Man 3.
Iron Man 3, he rips.
Yeah.
Which, as we all know, Iron Man 3 is the best Iron Man movie.
Yeah, it's good.
I love the first one.
The first one's
that's
good.
Acceptable too.
Yeah.
As well as Iron Man 2. We liked all.
I think they just all get better.
Yeah.
But they're all good. Okay, so then Judy Greer, she's in 13 Going on 30, of course. She's an Ant-Man, and I can't remember if I covered her in Ant-Man. I'm assuming not, because the cast are just so stacked. But she's an Ant-Man. She is Paul Rudd's ex-wife or ex-whatever. She's also in 27 Dresses. She was in the newest Halloween movie, and she's in Arrested Development. She's also just in, like, so many things. And then Irfan Khan, who was like the owner or the guy that like controlled things. Slumdog Millionaire. I also read in his bio that he almost was a really good cricket player.
Really?
And he was invited to like some kind of tournament that usually when you're invited to that tournament, a lot of people become professionals from it. But he couldn't go because he couldn't afford it. So then he focused on acting.
Oh.
What?
Yeah, pretty interesting, right?
Wait.
But he's happy he made that choice.
I know.
That is so wild.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
And didn't he die like a month ago?
I didn't look. I mean, yeah, he died this year.
Wait, he died?
Yeah,
he's such a gem. He's such a great actor.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, so he's in Slumdog Millionaire, Inferno, The Lunchbox, Life of Pi, Amazing Spider-Man, and then he's in a lot of foreign films, specifically like a lot of Indian films.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Vincent D'Onofrio, who might have one of the most interesting careers.
Oh, he's got the weirdest career.
He's just a guy that, like, for some reason, he gets to do anything he wants. Because this is, I mean, he's got a huge filmography, but this is what I picked. So he's Wilson Fisk in Daredevil. The only good thing about Daredevil, in my opinion. The show, not the movie.
Yeah.
And then he's in Men in Black. He's in Full Metal Jacket, Ed Wood, The Judge, Charlie Countryman.
The Judge!
Yeah. He's in Sinister
the worst movie.
And The Breakup. What a weird... I mean, I know that he's in more than that, but it's just like a weird collection.
Did you say Law and Order too?
No.
He's the main character in Law and Order
he
SVU.
Is? I didn't know that.
And he's with the daughter from What About Bob? They're the two main characters.
I don't remember who that is. But okay.
Yeah.
Cool. He's great. Didn't need to be in this movie, but he's great. Okay, and then we have Nick Robinson, who plays the older brother.
Okay.
He is the titular Simon in Love, Simon.
Ah, Mr. Sarcastic himself.
Yes. Angsty teenage boy. He's also in Boardwalk Empire, Everything, and he's also in Kong Skull Island. And then we have Jake Johnson, New Girl, Let's Be Cops, Mythic Quest, Spider-Verse. And then Omar Sy, who is like Chris Pratt's like friend and the guy that he works with. He's in The Untouchables, the French version.
Oh, he's the guy.
He's the guy in The Untouchables.
So he's a French guy.
Yeah, he's also in Chocolat.
Oh.
He's most recently in Call of the Wild. Sorry for his career for that.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing him in the trailer now. Yeah.
He's also in X-Men Days of Future Past and Transformers The Last Night. Okay, then last but not least, Lauren Lapkus.
We're talking about our girl,
yes,
Lauren Lapkus.
Who we know best from Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast and the TV show. One of the funniest comedians and actresses currently working, in our opinion, for Mike and me.
We love Lauren Lapkus. And let's just put it out there. Lauren, come on the show.
Please.
We want you on the show. You're the queen of podcasting.
She's in so many podcasts. Listen to any of them and they're great. She specifically is doing a Star Wars podcast called Newcomers with Nicole Byer, where they have never seen any of the Star Wars movies ever, and they go through it together.
It's the funniest podcast. It's so good.
Yeah, very funny. She's also in Crashing, the HBO show with Pete Holmes. Orange is the New Black. Most recently, The Wrong Missy, an Adam Sandler movie with one of his Netflix deals. The Good Girls and Harvey Girls.
Yeah, we love Lauren.
Yeah.
I was hoping you were going to do a side note on her. We'll just say with future guest Lauren Lapkus.
We hope and we pray.
I'm putting it out there as it's going to happen one day.
I didn't know who Lauren Lapkus was, so now I feel like I need to go watch more of her stuff.
There's a thing on Netflix called The Characters where like each episode is a different comedian and it's basically showcasing their, I would say, improv talent. I know it's not improv, but their comedic talent. And she has her own episode and she's just doing all these different characters and they're just so funny. And one of her characters is like a reality TV
like pop star
who's like, I'm going to choose who my boyfriend's going to be. And it is like sadly so on point
with reality TV stuff.
She is so funny. And I think that she, within the last couple of years, has been getting a lot of really great roles, like a little bit more popular, like putting herself out there a little bit more. And because we've been listening to a lot of podcasts that she's done, like for years, it's been so fun to like see her career move forward.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But okay. So you're in the theater, comes down, says Universal, and we see an egg, a close-up shot of an egg, and I believe it's a raptor is like coming out of the egg.
Mm-hmm.
A style of shot we've not seen thus far in the universe. And then we cut to...
But the animation is very cool.
The animation's crazy in that sequence, that first sequence. And then we cut to a bird landing on the ground, which I was kind of like, oh, weird when I first saw it. But it is thematically like within the world of one of the themes in this series has been like dinosaurs came from birds. Mm-hmm. So it does make sense that they're kind of like doing that.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we see like Judy Greer with the family and, one guy's...
Oh, David Wallace is in it.
Yes, from The Office. And basically the kids are going to go to Jurassic World with their aunt and hang out. Right?
Yeah, for a weekend.
Yeah. There's not much more to say about that.
It's established that the younger brother has he's kind of a nerd. He knows a lot about everything, but it seems like he is especially interested in dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, he is kind of with a childlike heart, like the Sam Neill of this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. In terms of interest.
Well, he's almost like the kid from the first movie in this movie.
Yeah. That's probably more true.
Yeah.
Okay,
but he does have that.
What did you guys think of Zach, the older one?
I
wish he was funnier.
Some thoughts about the older one.
Okay, I do too. I have literally 2 paragraphs.
Well, you go first.
So the beginning of the movie, I like that they didn't start right away with we don't see the dinosaurs yet, especially because it's been 20 years for people waiting for this movie. So I like that they kind of draw it out a little bit. But the whole thing, okay, can we just freaking stop putting in movies this idea of an angsty teenage boy who has a girlfriend who we have no relationship with. We don't care about the girl. We don't even know who this kid is yet. It's not like this is a sequel. And it's like, I don't care about you. Get in the car. I would much rather... The parents, I was telling Arturo, I would almost have preferred the parents came to the island, because they're both such good actors, because they're trying to establish this whole thing of like this family is breaking up. And if they would have done a whole thing of like, this is one last family vacation and like we're gonna try and make this work, I know that that's kind of drawn out too, but like they're amazing actors. Have them come and then they do their own thing and then their kids get lost, and it could have still been the same premise. But it's not this whole thing of this creepy kid who keeps staring at girls the whole movie. I don't even get it.
He's a creep.
He's a creep. I don't get his character.
I think
sorry, Olivia, that is a great fix for the movie.
Yeah,
I love that idea, because Judy Greer is so wasted in this movie, and she's so fantastic.
She's the best.
Sorry, go ahead, Judy.
I was going to say, I think one of the in recent films, one of the best representation of teenagers is the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, totally.
Like, it's just like each kid is like such a good actor, and they just like know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And they it's like, I don't know, they're just all just so funny and so good in what they're do. I think the script's a lot better for them, obviously, than this movie. But like, I think they should have written this character more like, that's just like he's just a kid.
Yeah.
Even though he's 16 and he likes girls now, he doesn't have to be like creepy and angsty about it.
Well, and I just do not buy, I do not buy that you're at a place where there are extinct dinosaurs living, walking, you can touch them, and you're just like, I wish I was texting my girlfriend.
Whatever.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, that T-Rex sucks so bad. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And
I mean, even at a zoo, I'm in so much wonder, and sometimes they're not even like that crazy of animals.
Yeah.
And I think most people are.
Yeah, and I think that they were trying to kind of play on this fact of like, okay, both of the kids know that there's something going on with their parents. So the little one is acting out emotionally, and the older one is just like acting out because he like wants to be a little rebel. But I feel like that's really not even a good depiction of what it's like when your parents are going through a divorce. So I feel like if they really wanted to play with this idea of they have angst and they're not getting along as brothers, they could have actually done that better. And I don't even think it's the actor's fault, because I think he probably did exactly what they told him to do.
I think so too.
Which is the issue.
I think he actually does a really good performance. I'm not faulting, I'm faulting the writing, not the acting on this.
Totally.
And I think, just to kind of explain more, I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is the characters are just so underdeveloped and one-dimensional. Like every single one of them.
Very typical.
Yeah, and it feels very much like this movie, I say this a lot, but it just feels very written. Like it doesn't transcend the material. It feels like lines, and it feels like a man writing a woman character. It feels like older men writing about younger people. Like it doesn't feel like they know anything about these experiences they're writing about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, it's very odd. I mean, I just think the Bryce Dallas Howard character is like insane to me.
Yeah.
But like we will get to that as we go. Yeah, it's just such a male written role. And I know I'm not a woman, so I can't speak to that, but it just feels like if a woman had written it, she would have so much more depth, because she is so uninteresting to me.
Yeah. I mean, she looks great.
Yeah, I like her outfit.
She looks great.
I like her outfit before she rips it apart. But
yeah, and I read this whole thing where, because obviously as a girl, Jordan, you know this, when you watch a woman running in heels that don't even have straps, you're like, first of all, those shoes would have been gone like the minute anything was going on. Number two, she actually did run in those heels, and she spent time practicing running in them. And I'm like, as an actress, you're going to take your time that's limited to learn how to run in heels. That's what we're going to do with your role. Like, let's talk about blood blisters for a second. Like, I just can't. I can't.
It is so, oh gosh, yeah. It is like so annoying. And it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, part of me is like, oh, it's not even worth talking about, because I don't even want to like spend time on it. But at the same time, it's like, it is so stupid that this is a thing that happened, and they drew attention to it at the end of the movie.
Totally, that's the issue. They make it a point that you notice she's running in literal stilettos, which is like impossible.
Yeah.
Well, and it's so, I mean, we already know that the T-Rex runs 35 miles per hour. And you know us, Olivia. We don't like to nitpick, but
I know.
a lot of this movie, and especially the next movie, they just kind of like defy you to like find the reasoning behind certain things. You know?
Well, it goes down to so to go a little bit forward, I'm just jumping ahead a little bit, but like they, we kind of meet what is the monster that they made up?
The Indominus Rex.
The Indominus Rex. So they think that it's escaped. And so she's like, oh, there's a chip. We can like track the chip and find out where it is.
Yeah.
No one go inside the cage until we figure out if it's in there or not.
Right. Double check maybe before you go in.
And that is like, I know that's nitpicky, but it is like let's just look at a reality for a second. No one would be going into that cage until they knew that it was not in there.
Absolutely. And I think like if we're going to zoom out, because I don't even think this is nitpicky, because one of the biggest things, which I know you guys are going to have an issue with this once we get to it, the biggest thing for me is the safety measures of the park, because even going to like Universal Studios or Disneyland, if one person stands up on a ride, literally everything is shut down. Like they don't mess around. So now let's pretend like we're in Disneyland and there's, a 50-foot dinosaur. Okay. It's like the things that they would be doing to make sure that their guests were safe, like bunkers, for example, like so many things, they don't have any of that. And that is a huge plot hole for me.
Yeah, right. I didn't even really think about that, but that is so true. When it's like you do have to figure. It's like such a huge liability to not have those things in place, because they're dinosaurs. Like if it's martial law, like if it's going to happen, it will. Or what's it? Anything
Murphy's
that can't.
Law.
Murphy's law.
Marshall's law.
Marshall's law. Sorry,
they call in the army to like.
I meant Murphy's law. What is the whole thing though? It's like whatever can happen will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
And I wanted to speak to your point, Olivia, and then I forgot what I was going to say, so we're just going to keep moving.
Okay, let's keep tracking.
But here is one thing that I think is fantastic about the movie. When they get to the park, they open it up, and we see this fully functioning park, and then there's this scene, the best scene in the movie, and it is just like, it is so wish-fulfilling, it's insane. We pan down to these children riding Triceratops and little tiny Bronchiosauruses, and a kid comes up to it and hugs it, and cute. It is like the cutest thing in the world.
I would argue that I would argue that is the only point in the movie for me personally that has the most heart and wonder.
Yes.
Out of all of it, is a kid doing that.
And when they're
crazy.
kayaking down the river and there's like a brontosaurus,
yes.
like that, I'm there. I'll pay whatever you want me to pay to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and what I really do appreciate, I don't think it completely works. As you're probably feeling, Olivia, I don't like hate this movie. I don't even know if I'd go so far as to say I dislike it. I don't think it works completely. But I do commend Trevorrow and the writers for like attempting something different with the series, because it feels like the first time since the first movie that they're like, okay, now there's a park open. Now we can deal with this. And I think that's really interesting. Yeah. I think they kind of like throw it out the window for just like mayhem at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
But I like the movie. I lost my train of thought again, but it just kind of falls off the rails. And I remember what I was going to say. I stalled enough that I remembered. The problem with all of these sequels is that the wonder is both not photographed well. Spielberg nails it in the first movie. The way he does those push-ins and zooms and like the angle of his shots, you are in so much wonder. Yeah. And it never gets replicated. But part of it is we've seen the dinosaurs. We know, and you can't put that trick back in the bag.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like if every time you make a sequel, you can't be like a new character going, okay, I've never heard of, dinosaurs? Because it's already happened.
Yeah.
And that's why the series doesn't really work as a whole. I think mostly it's like the wonder is gone, and then the lessons are never learned.
I will say, though, every time I wrote down a note, I had to remind myself, like, if we're talking about an overall premise of the movie, like this movie's about dinosaurs and it's about a theme park, there are going to be obvious things that are like, that wouldn't happen in real life.
Totally.
So it's like,
absolutely.
Okay, well, we're not going to have dinosaurs in real life. I've honestly researched it a ton, and they've tried at Yale, and that's terrifying. But it's like there are going to be things that are very, very, very confusing. But I feel like for me, when I would watch it, I just gave it a pass because I loved the visuals, and I felt like I was being brought back in time to something that was so like reminiscent of my childhood, Which I think they could get away with stuff in this one, but I think the second one, I don't know what you guys think of that movie. I think they're using their same old tricks and they can't get away with it on the second one.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the other movie. Most of these movies in the series is my first time. But I would, like, as someone who did not see Jurassic Park until I was in college, like, I really don't have a connection to these movies. I obviously think the first one's amazing, and it's so good, but it's like, I do not have an emotional attachment. Yeah. So it's harder for me to watch this movie, even though it's 20 years after, or, it's just basically a reboot. It's hard for me to watch it and to, like, feel exactly how you're saying that you felt, and I wish I could.
Right.
I just don't have that attachment to it. But I agree with you. Like when you go into anything that's fictional, I mean, it's like when people watch Interstellar and they're like, that could never happen. And it's like, no, of course it couldn't. It's a science fiction movie.
Yeah. There is an element of like you do have to like hold your breath and just let them do what they're going to do. Yeah. But the problem with another problem with all the sequels is the first movie is so airtight, and it's like everything is pretty explainable and justifiable. Like the guy, Wayne Knight Newman, who like shuts the power off and stuff, it all totally lines up. So when the dinosaurs escape, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Whereas this one, it's like, if they'd have just taken 1 extra minute, this wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, totally.
But I do want to talk about another, like, the ideology of this movie, I do kind of like. So we've talked about the park being open. I love that. The other thing that I do like, I don't, again, it doesn't totally work though, is that scene where Bryce Dallas Howard goes in to talk to the investors, and she says, people don't really care about dinosaurs anymore. It needs to be scarier, cooler, crazier. Yeah. And what's cool is if you read that kind of as a look on the series as a whole, because I think we're discovering that the best way to kind of think about these movies is like if the park, you treat it as the movie. Yeah. And it's like, well, people don't want dinosaurs from Jurassic Park. They need something bigger and better for it to beat the first movie out. And like our guest said in the last episode, this whole movie is telling you that the first movie is better, and this movie is not going to be as good as the first movie. Yeah. And I love all of that. Yeah. And I think that's a fascinating ideology, particularly about American culture, how we always just need something better and newer, and we can't be satisfied. Mm-hmm.
Totally. And I love that. I really, even when I first watched it, I thought it was really cool that they were saying, like, she kept calling the dinosaurs like the asset. Like, she wouldn't refer to them as like things that, were alive. And like the Verizon Wireless presents, it's like that, that is actually what would happen. Like, we would totally not care anymore. You would take your kids there and be like, cool, like the T-Rex isn't even the coolest thing there anymore. And, people just want something crazier, which I do like that they relied on that, because I mean, that's the reality of humans, which is sucky, but
yeah. And that goes into the design of the Indominus Rex for me is like, I like the way they designed it because it doesn't look it doesn't look natural. Yeah. Because it's not supposed to. It's basically a mashup of dinosaurs. Yes. And like particularly its mouth, it looks kind of like I can't think of the right word other than like zombified a little bit. Yeah. Like it doesn't look like its mouth was completely finished. So its teeth are just like so like always bloody. Like always bloody
and sticking out too.
Yeah. And I like it does look much more like a monster than it does a dinosaur. I think that whoever designed it did a good job.
So now let's talk about oh man, I was trying to remember his name from Parks and Rec. I want to talk about Owen Grady from this movie.
Oh, Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. I think he's an absolute disaster in this movie. Okay. I think he maybe is the worst part about this movie.
Oh my gosh, really? I feel like he made the movie.
Well, I'm going to tell you why, and maybe I'll convince you. Part of it is something you said, which say.
Oh, I think that Chris Pratt is miscasted. I love Chris Pratt. I mean, anyone who's listened to our Guardians episode, huge Chris Pratt fan.
Yeah.
The thing is, for me, you can't, and I have talked to a lot of people about this. People, and including me, cannot get Andy from Parks and Rec out of their mind, no matter how good he looks now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that being said, to me, even the sound of his voice is funny to me.
Yep.
And also because Guardians, he's perfectly well casted because he looks heroic now, but he's still funny.
Right.
So in this movie, he's not really supposed to be funny. Like, he's doing much more of the straight man kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it does every time
he's
he
doing
gives
his
like
best
an order.
Harrison Ford impersonation.
Yeah, and every time he like gives an order, it's like, oh, is it?
Are we supposed to laugh right there, or?
Yeah, and that's like, for me, it's a thing that I can't separate in my mind.
Yes, and the other thing about him is this whole movie, you can actually see some shots where his eyes are normal and then he squints to look cooler.
That's funny.
Which that's pretty annoying. But here is the problem with so I think he's completely miscast, and
I think the character is fine. I just think, like I said, you got to put someone else in there. But,
see, I think the character is also a disaster.
Okay,
and I'll tell you why. As is pointed out in a Blank Check episode on The Lost World, Ian Malcolm in Jurassic Park 1 is like the Han Solo of the movie, where he's kind of commenting on how everything is stupid and this shouldn't be happening, but he's a smart scientist, but he's cool and suave. And that's part of why in the next movie it doesn't work, because that guy can't really be your main character, the guy that's always like commenting on stuff. And in this movie, they make a vital error. They take the character of Sam Neill and Ian Malcolm and they combine them into one person. So the person who's like caring and compassionate about dinosaurs is also the person that's like, yeah, but this is pretty stupid, huh? And so like at the core of his essence, his character is like at odds with himself.
that's an interesting thought.
And so I just don't think he works at all. At all.
But now I want to know what Olivia thinks about him.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm trying to think. Mostly when you just said Harrison Ford, I was picturing a young Harrison Ford, and that kind of fits perfectly. Like, if you were to think of him young, because he's still kind of sarcastic and quippy, because I think we need that a little bit. We need a little bit of that, like, sarcasm. But I think I guess the issue, so we have, like, the two people in the control room who are obviously the comic relief. Like, that is their job. But then
the best two characters.
Which are the best. I mean, yeah. And then you look at Owen, and he's kind of making light of everything, but also being serious. And so it's like, okay, they want us to think this movie is like so serious, but like there has to be a comic relief, but maybe there's too much comic relief, because now I don't know which person is supposed to make me laugh and which one's not, type of thing. And so I don't know. I think I really like Bryce Dallas Howard a lot. I like her in that role. And I think the other cast is good. I personally like Chris Pratt because it feels like I know him because I've seen him in so many things. But I think I could be convinced otherwise if I could think of someone else, but I don't know who else could fit that role. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't thought about who would be better, and I'll probably think about it for the rest of the day.
Yeah. Well, I think it would have, I know someone does need to be kind of like the commenting relief character, you know? But if the character was written differently, if you just had like a really earnest person that just loved the dinosaurs, that could work. Or if you did have someone like, you know, I mean, it can't be him, obviously, but like Jeff Goldblum, who's like, this is so stupid, the whole movie. But it's him doing both things just doesn't work.
But I think like story-wise, what would have made it better? So it's like the owner basically tells Bryce Dallas Howard, like, oh, this Owen guy's going to come look at this dinosaur and help us maybe think about its psychology a little bit more. And she's like, oh, we have a pass. So then they go meet, and it's like, we had one date, and it was just like so terrible. And it's like, we don't need the scene. To me, what should have happened is the movie, or when Owen's character was introduced, it should have been him, I think, saving the kid who fell in, because it shows that he has a relationship with the dinosaurs in terms of being able to train them and they trust him in some way. Also, it still shows the danger of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
So it shows that's how he's introduced, and then like she shows up to take him back to the Dominus Rex, and that's when they have their weird conversation. If we feel like we can't do without it. Right. Not like a 10-minute, it takes like 10 or 15 minutes to get there.
Right. I totally agree with that. So now let's talk about Vincent D'Onofrio and the military dinosaurs. Olivia, military dinos, where do you stand? Are you pro?
Well, that's terrifying to think about. I feel like, okay, kind of going a little bit with what you were just saying about Chris Pratt. If we're thinking about it, he kind of acts like he hates his life there. So it's kind of like, well, why is he there? Number one, if he thinks that what they're doing to these animals is not great, then why is he there? That's my question.
You're talking about the Chris Pratt character?
Yes. Because then he comes out and he's like, hey, what do you need, buddy? He's like, hey, we're going to take these dinosaurs to war. And it's like, oh, okay, men. You know?
Yeah, it's like, that's quite the leap.
Yeah, and it's like, I do think people would try and do that. I more think people would try and just have them as, like, if we're talking like really realistic in a different universe, I more think people would use these as a spectacle, like, look how much money I have. I have a brontosaurus in my backyard type of thing. But as far as war goes, I mean, like, I just don't know. Like, I think it could have been a better movie than what the second one was, because the second one was just a repeat of all the other ones. But it's like, I kind of would want to see what that looks like. Like, opening scene, you're in Afghanistan and you see a dinosaur eating somebody. Like, that's the first scene. And you're like, whoa, what is this world? How long has it been? They've trained them that well. Like, that could be cool. But also it could be the dumbest thing ever too. I don't know.
Right. Well, there's almost like an alternate world where they make Jurassic Park. They don't make any sequels, but they do all these movies that are like, they never say are officially Jurassic Park related. But say you go to a movie and it's supposed to be about like these U.S. soldiers that are pinned down in some town somewhere in the world. And they're trying to figure things out, and they're getting attacked by something. And then they find out it's a monster. And then at the end, it's like a horror movie. And then they find out it's this
You're basically asking for the Cloverfield franchise for this franchise.
In a way, yeah. Although that franchise doesn't really work, but it's almost like you need to like scrap the idea of like recurring characters and just do like, oh, let's zoom in and do this thing over here on like a $70 million budget. And then let's do. I think what
you're
prefer to
also
do that.
kind of talking about too is a little bit of Mad Max of what, because each movie is vastly different than the last.
Yes.
Kind of the common theme throughout is dystopia.
Yes.
That I would be so on board with, because when you do like have these recurring characters, it's just so much baggage comes with them. And like you just said about Ian Malcolm in the second movie, or whoever said that, it's like it doesn't really work because of what we know about him in the first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I liked, first of all, I loved that Henry Wu, the doctor, was in it. I wish they would have had more characters from the original. Yeah. I love that he was in it, and I also love that they almost made him kind of like the evil character, because you don't pick that up in the first ones. But and I wish that they wouldn't have killed Vincent, I can't ever say his last name, D'Onofrio.
Close enough.
At the end, and I wish they would have gone through with this idea of they're making dinosaurs on the side and they're actually doing something, because I do feel like that's what people would do, and I do feel like that's kind of like, you know, this weird government thing is going on. And because Henry got away, but then he wasn't in the second one, but they say he's going to be in the third one. But it's like, well, why aren't you leaning into that? If you want a sequel this bad, let's lean into what you guys are doing, creating these things. Exactly. They're just, like Micah was saying, they're just like alluding to all these things. And it's like, I want to see more of that. Do that. And they're not doing it.
There's a little bit of like, pick a lane. Like, in my opinion, this movie should just be about the park, and it should not be about, I mean, maybe you do the genetic stuff, but it should just be about the park, no military stuff, and like that should be what it is. And the point is like capitalism doesn't work, which has been the theme in all the other movies, and then like greed corrupts absolutely. That's the theme of the movie. And then, you know, instead of like, let's tack on this training thing.
So then the next movie is, okay, we know that that's not really working now. Let's try this.
Sure.
Yeah, like, why are they bringing up military stuff if that's not what the second one was about? I was so baffled when that's what the second one wasn't about. Like, it made no sense to me.
Well, I have a theory that I thought of last night, Olivia. Okay. And I know you said you stumbled upon some plot stuff, but even if they didn't say this, you know, these things change a lot. So we don't know for sure until we see it. I think what's going to happen, if you recall, at the end of Fallen Kingdom, dinosaurs get out on North America.
Yes.
So I think the movie's going to do like an hour to an hour and a half of like the dinosaurs ravaging everything. And then all of a sudden, like, battle dinos are going to come out and save the day. That's what I think is going to happen in the next movie.
I mean, yeah. So what, do you guys want to know what I read?
Yeah.
I'll just really quick. What they were saying is it's going to be a fast forward into the future where we basically coexist with dinosaurs. Like, so you're camping and then, a dinosaur gets into your stuff like a bear would. Like, so they're saying it'll be more.
That's pretty cool.
So, and once I read that, I was like, if I wrote this script, which personally I think I could, I think that's what I would write. This idea of there are pterodactyls flying. How do we deal with those as humans? Do we have things that we keep in our cars to fend off the dinosaurs? Do they not bother us? Because like bears don't bother us,
Right.
So that's interesting to me, but who knows what they'll do.
That is a very fascinating.
It would be against the entire series, but it would be interesting if it ended with coexistence. And it was like, we made it work. And it was like, life finds a way.
Yeah. That's the whole thing.
It would go against the first movie, but I almost would prefer them do that than like another smash dino.
And this is where I'm at with the series. And I haven't seen the next one, and I'm not excited for it. But based on like everything we've seen, and pretty much besides the first one, every time we've watched one, Mike is like, I just have been trying to figure out how they can make it work. And I said last night, Micah, they have tried 4 times to make it work, and it's not working. Maybe they should just stop. Yeah. Of course, it makes too much money, which is the whole ironic thing of the whole series.
Yeah, and I mean, I love it. Even though I would hate it, I would love it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you like it, and I'm glad that like there are people still enjoying it. Like I already said, I have no attachment, don't really care. The first one's the best one, but to me, I still like the third one better, or the third one is my second favorite because it's just dinosaurs chasing people, and that's all I want.
Yeah. I think what would be awesome is if there was Jurassic Park 1, no more movies, and then if they're like the rest of the movies almost work if there's like 4 cheesy punchlines that make you realize it's self-aware and it's not attached to Jurassic Park and they're not trying to be scientific and philosophical, but it's just funny. Like kind of like I felt like Kong Skull Island was a good example of like there's monsters and then every once in a while there's like a wink at the camera.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that movie because it was a little like, it's monsters, it's ridiculous, just go with us on this.
Yeah.
And these movies, they try to do that, and then simultaneously they try to make a serious philosophical point, and they're attached to one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. So it's just like, it's so hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah. I think 50% of this movie is also like what we've been saying. It is bringing back your original memories of watching this. And so it's like so much of it, even the fact that they're on the same island, which I find kind of interesting because I don't feel like you would go back to the same island. I don't know. But then also that the T-Rex is supposed to be the original T-Rex from the first one. And I didn't know that. And it's like, well, how did that even happen? And then the old building in the jungle, that first of all, they would tear that down. But second of all, it's like, they're just bringing back all of the, like, these romantic feelings you had about the first one.
Totally. And it's just nostalgia.
Yeah. And it works for this one, but it can't go past this one.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it works on the level that our guest, Dan, or I think it was Jeremy actually from our previous episode said, that it works on the level of the movie being self-aware that it is like, this is not Jurassic Park 1 and we don't think we're better than that.
Yeah.
I think it works on that level, but there is a little bit like, it's like, it's a little too nostalgic for me. Like, just barely. I feel like there's just like a scene or two that's like, if you just cut that out, it'd be less on the like, we're trying to pull at your heartstrings and make you remember feelings you had instead of earning them.
Probably the building. Like, they could have taken that out, the old building.
Yeah, I think that would have been maybe the
perfect.
Fix.
Yeah.
Although when I was in theaters, I was like, the goggles!
I know, because then you hear like the doo-doo-doo, and you're like, why am I crying?
Yeah.
I was telling Jordan, I was like, because, they go into that restaurant scene where Hammond talks to Ellie, and I was like, I wonder if that melted ice cream is all over the table.
Wait, that's true. And not to mention the fact I did put this in my notes, that amount of plants and foliage do not grow in 20 years. Like it doesn't, it looked like it had been 1,000 years since they had been there. Yeah. It was very confusing.
But that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. That's like movie magic.
Yeah.
I go with them on that one. Okay, we've bounced all over the place, which is good. But let's talk about the gyroscope scene.
Is that the ball?
Where the kids are in the ball.
Oh, no.
I like the scene a lot. I think it's a great scene.
Yeah.
Where the kids are in the ball and the Indominus like appears in their reflection when he's like,
Very
no,
scary.
there's 5 dinosaurs.
Okay, but
I think that scene is cool.
This is the epitome of the entire movie wouldn't happen if this wouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't. Like, it's such a plot hole.
Right.
Like, such an issue with the fact that they can drive this thing on their own. It's not on a track. And the whole park is being shut down, and there's nothing that turns that ball around, and they can just drive it
I know, like an override
want.
System.
Yes. I was like, this would, I don't know. I feel like out of all of the writers, they could have been like, well, let's do a couple fixes with this scene.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think the circumstances leading up to it, you have to turn off the logic part of your brain, but the actual sequence where the dinosaur's attacking them and it breaks through the glass.
Yeah.
I mean, really cool.
Oh, the dinosaur looks great.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. And I love when it bites the gyroscope and its breath fogs it up and you see its big old tongue.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when it's fighting that dinosaur that has like the shell
It
back.
reminds me of an armadillo.
Yes.
Yeah. And it like attempts I thought it was such a Jordan said it
Real
first.
Wonderful touch
that it's like this dinosaur that doesn't know what it's doing and it just tries to bite the back of the shell and then realizes it doesn't work. So then it flips it over and cuts it open. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's such a cool touch.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it kind of goes along with this idea that it's kind of like it's like a baby. Like it's still young and it's like just trying to figure out what it is. And man, that scene when Chris Pratt is so after he eats the one worker and then the fat guy, Chris Pratt is like under the truck. And when you see that his mouth come in, that is literally horrifying, but it looks so good because it was obviously real and it was just like it was good. I was impressed.
Yeah, that part looked really good. And it is like nice touch that they said, I don't remember, I think it was Chris Pratt at one point was like, maybe it wasn't him, but it was like, it is not, this thing isn't natural. So like basically its genetic makeup its DNA does not tell it what to do. So it doesn't really know what it's doing. Yeah. So like they pretty much find out that it's killing for sport. Oh, and it's like, it's not just trying to survive.
You see the real animatronic of that Bronchiosaurus die. That
sad.
Is heartbreaking.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
That was a great scene.
That was like emotional, and I was like, wow, this is good.
And I'm glad that neither of them talked like that whole scene.
Yeah, me
they
too.
were just there for it.
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
Then Mr. Indominus himself, Mrs.
Yeah.
Or Miss, actually. She's not married as far as we know.
She's the only one of her kind.
But man, if someone, I was trying to make a Beyonce, if you liked it, you should have put a ring on it joke. So insert that joke in your head, viewer. If you liked it, you should have put a ring on it.
So people are watching now.
Yes, looking at their time slowly move across their podcasting app. Okay.
Reset.
Take 2. The pterodactyls escape.
Yeah.
Out of the aviary. And again, I'll credit this scene. I mean, I think it could be shot a little scarier, but it's a pretty cool sequence where it's just attacking everybody that's chaos. Running around. And it was very reminiscent of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Like, I feel like that was probably an inspiration on the sequence. And
But this scene has one, as you've said, and I agree, one of the most violent scenes in the whole franchise.
And I don't know what that assistant did to deserve that death.
Oh, later when Zara, that whole thing.
Yeah.
That's just so insane.
Yeah, that was like so aggressive. Which really fast. Did you guys? Okay, this is probably one of my favorite scenes from any of the Jurassic Parks, but when you first see the Indominus Rex at its full power running out of the jungle before the boys jump off of the waterfall, it looks so real, the CGI.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And then when it's leaning over the side, it like all of the dinosaurs remind me of cats for some reason, like their movements. But when it's like reaching over the side and then the camera's like panning up at it, it's like, it's actually one of the most unreal scenes to me.
It looks really good.
I like it reaches over the waterfall to try and bite them.
Yeah.
Like grab them in its jaws, and that's very cool.
Anyway, I just had to say that.
Yes, I'm glad you brought it up. That is a great sequence. So when Zara is attacked, what is mind-blowing, watching the behind the scenes, she did all of those stunts. That
actress did?
What?
And you can see this behind the scenes footage where she's just launched into the air like that and then launch back down and then like into the water out. I mean, these are separate shots, but out of the water, into the water, out of the water, and then like launched into the air again. And
what? No.
And what's crazy too, that this blew my mind. So in that shot, it looks at the kids and then it looks at her, pans to the kids, and then it pans back to her, and the pterodactyl gets her, one shot. They timed that. So she has a harness on.
Oh, wow.
It looks at her. There's nothing connected to her.
Yeah.
It pans to the kids. Someone runs up, hooks the harness on.
What?
Gets out of the shot, and then it launches her by the time the camera comes back around.
That's impressive.
And I am like, I would not do that for any amount of money.
Oh, I would do that. That's awesome. That is so cool. Okay.
As a person who skydives.
I know. Okay, but
do you skydive?
Yeah, I did, and bungee jumped. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I'm too scared.
For me, it's like watching the movie, and I'm like, man, I feel like I'm gonna pee my pants just watching it.
Oh my gosh, that scene though. Okay, but we have to talk, and I've never noticed this in the original. So when I originally saw it, so the Mosasaurus or whatever, you know how it kind of goes to the end, but with Zara. Why is it allowed to be right there where the guard railing is if that's where people stand?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
And then also
like a huge thing.
At the end when the Indominus Rex is like laying there and it comes up and like drags it down. And it's like, you're saying that some like steel was just separating it from jumping up there?
Yeah.
I think it could have done that if it wanted to.
Yeah, and because like that didn't get out. Like they're making it a point that everything else got out, but how did that thing get out?
I never have thought of that.
Yeah.
That's so funny. That sequence when they introduced the Mosasaurus, fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool.
And it's very SeaWorld, obviously, and it splashes everyone, and you're just like, that made me feel like this is how this park would actually be in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And should we just talk about the final showdown?
Sure.
Yeah, unless you want to talk about when Bryce changes her outfit and it's like a whole 5 minutes of her becoming less girly and more manly.
Which is like so not true because she like basically changes her shirt so that we can see her tank top.
Yep.
And then throughout their running, she gets this like slit up her skirt.
Yep.
And then furthermore, she just in the tank top at some point. And it's like less and less and less and less, kind of.
And yet Chris Pratt, the male hero, does not lose any clothing.
He's just sweaty like we expect him to be.
Yeah.
I had forgot to look it up, but her outfit and her progression of her outfit kind of reminds me of King Kong, the girl from King Kong. And I'm curious if that has any inspiration.
I wonder.
Yeah,
and my favorite was when her perfectly straight hair, even though it's humid, turns into the perfectly curled bob. I know it's nitpicky, but I mean, that's just not what you would look like.
No, not at all. It's like not even really frizzy for like such a long time.
Yeah.
Well, as you know, we have an unusually amount of hair talk on this podcast, of which I usually do not notice or understand. So I'm glad that you're here to also provide that, because my hair knowledge is nil. I mean, I shave every couple of weeks because I'm balding. So, you know.
Well, straight hair and humidity wouldn't work no matter who you are. So that was the issue.
Yeah, pretty annoying.
What did you guys think of the whole scene of when the military takes over finally, and then we find out the dinosaur's a raptor, like the big one?
I do think this scene's pretty cool. I like the security footage a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that the movie didn't tell us that it was genetically modified with other anything until this scene.
Yeah.
Because it's like when it's revealed that it's a raptor, you're like, oh, okay. It's already has a bunch of other stuff. That's not weird. If you didn't know that, though, and it was like camouflage, and you're like, why is this dinosaur camouflage? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How come it did the thermal thing earlier in the movie? This is not adding up. And then they hear on the line, like, they put raptor in this? And then they find out, like, they put cuttlefish? And then it becomes more of an indictment of what they did, whereas you already know all that stuff from the beginning, except for the raptor.
But
it'd be more impactful.
It's cool when when the dinosaurs start talking though, and then they all turn and look at them like now they're the food. Like that was like, oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
I liked that scene.
And this is my Velociraptor attempt at that high of call. Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, thank you.
It was sad. I liked that they kind of made us have an emotional attachment to the raptors, even though they were eating people. Because because when Blue or whichever one got blown up, and you can see like the sadness in Chris Pratt, and you're like, oh my gosh, that was like his pet. But like they're evil, but it's not their fault that they're evil. They're just dinosaurs.
Right. That's their DNA makeup.
Yeah. And then I think basically we just have the final showdown now.
Yeah.
And this sequence is, it's just such a misunderstanding of what we love about, the first movie, where it's like, okay, it's just what a lot of sequels do, where they're like, we got to go bigger, we got to go better. So it's like huge fight, then more huge fight, then make the fight even bigger, then get the T-Rex from the first movie kind of illogically and get it to fight, and then make it get eaten by a mosasaurus. And it's kind of like, yeah, but that's not why I liked Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? Like, and there's only like one scene in that really has that moment, and it's when the T-Rex attacks the Velociraptors at the end of Jurassic Park, the first movie.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Wait, the Velociraptors. Oh, I was thinking of a pterodactyl when you said that.
But whereas the rest of the movie is just like a lot of tension. And this movie lacks a lot of that for me, a lot of tension, and it kind of replaces tension with action. And I don't think that's the right route to go. But then again, in the next movie, there's the kind of like haunted house thing where the dinosaurs are running around in the house, and I'm like, okay, this is a little out of my depth.
Yeah.
I know that the Velociraptors go through changes from every movie because they can, but they feel smaller in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel so. Like in the first movie, when like the kids are trying to get away from them, they're like massive.
Yeah. Well, I know throughout the movie, what's funny is throughout them making these movies, we've learned a lot more about dinosaurs, and in particular Velociraptors. So every movie, they try to make the Velociraptors more accurate to what they would look like.
Yeah.
But I will never like them as much as I like them in the first movie.
I am so glad they took the things off their heads in this movie. Because in the third movie, they had the like porcupine quills or feathers on their head. And it's like, I get it. Maybe that's what they had. I don't like it. Get rid of it.
Well, and it's also like, I don't know. It's such an easy explanation that, oh, well, we modified them like that, and that's just what we did. Instead of like, this is how they exactly looked,
Yeah. Guys, it's fictional. So
I guess to kind of sum up my thoughts on the movie, I think it's fun. I do think that Trevorrow deserves a lot of credit for like a really ambitious attempt. I know he gets a lot of crap for this movie from like hardcore fans. I think it's probably my least favorite of the four we've rewatched, but I think it's the first one where they really tried to do something outside of the box. And for that, I give it a little extra points. Okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if the characters were not one-dimensional, this might be my second favorite of the series. But I don't like any of the characters except for Jake Johnson and Lauren Lapkus.
Yeah.
And I only like Lauren. I mean, Lauren Lapkus doesn't have much of an arc. She shouldn't. But I mostly just like her because I'm a fan of her.
She is. Yeah.
But Jake Johnson is like my favorite character because he's kind of kooky and says funny stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I stand on the movie.
Yeah.
Take over.
Me?
Anybody.
Oh, I mean, I don't hate this movie. I don't love this movie. This movie is a movie is kind of how I feel about it. I think it leaves a lot to there's a lot that I think should have been changed, but at the same time, I agree with you that I appreciate all of the things that they tried doing in this movie, especially with, I think it was such the right call for this movie. It's a park that is already working.
Yeah.
Rather than them trying to get one to work, because that would just be repeating what's already been done.
Right.
So I really like that premise of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think I mean, no matter what, I enjoy these movies. Even if I don't like the second one or the third one, I just enjoy them because I just like these movies. And, you know, this was probably my 9th or 10th time watching it. And so it was kind of funny to like analyze it. I mean, visually, it was great. I think, you know, I think that they looked very real and what they did was really cool. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you break it down, there were certain things that I wish they wouldn't have done. Like, I wish they wouldn't have killed Ms. Ronnie or whatever his name was. I think they could have done more with him. I think they shouldn't have killed Vincent at the end because I think they could have continued that. Henry Wu could have had a way bigger character arc in it because they were getting to something. So I think that they were relying again heavily on what we've already seen and the nostalgia, which works for me as Olivia, but I could understand how if you've never seen it before, you would be like, great, cool, big movie, big budget, it should be cool. Kind of like how some of the Avengers are. Like, it should look good. Look how much money they had.
Right.
You know, but
the dinosaurs look so good in this movie, especially the third one. The third one, the dinosaurs in that one looked so bad.
Yeah.
They looked so good in this movie.
Oh, yeah. And I think in a dream world, if we have to have unequivocally, it should just be one movie, Jurassic Park. But if we have to have more, I do imagine a world where there's Jurassic Park, then 20 years later, there's Jurassic World, and they clean up some of the side characters, preferably get some new actors, some different actors. Definitely keep the helicopter pilot, though. I forgot his name because he ruled.
Han.
Yeah. and make it a little bit simpler of a story without some of those extra, you know, we don't, like, the divorce thing is like, wait, that's introduced really late. The, you know, all the other stuff I mentioned. And I could see this being like a really, really good movie that would have satisfied a lot and then done.
Yeah.
But to make another trilogy is kind of weird to me. It's just it's not a series that lends itself to sequels. And that's why we had to cover it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All in all, love this movie. But
well,
there's issue. I mean, there's issues with it, and I think they come out a lot more in the second one, mostly because it just is lazy. I think they just are getting lazier because they want money, and that's just stupid to me.
Yeah. But it does kind of work as its own like self-fulfilling prophecy for the movies being made. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Where it's like, we're going to keep trying. We're going to keep
trying.
A lot
of film students have probably written essays on this franchise.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, so that's what we got. Olivia, do you have anything to plug?
I mean, the Salt and Pepper podcast, it's very different than this podcast. We don't talk about movies. I do talk about your guys' podcast on there. Yes. I mean, that's about it. I have a million other things, but that's the only one that I should plug.
Okay. And for us, patrons, this week we released our episode on The Incredibles. And that'll be this month's Patreon episode. And then last month, which would be July, last month, recording these ahead, I get my dates confused. I released a song exclusively on Patreon. So go to www.patreon.com/MicahMcCaw and go get all of your stuff.
Do it. I did it. Great choice. It was a great decision.
We'll see you next week when we
finish.
Do we
announce what our next series is in this episode or the next one?
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Do I get to hear?
You'll get to hear. Which, funny enough, you already guessed it when you were messaging me on Instagram. But so next week we're gonna finish up Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. No guest next week, just Jordan and I to summarize the whole series, and then, unless we have a very special guest that comes through and we have to make some scheduling changes, which would be amazing, our plan is to do
Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the freaking Pooh.
That's such a drastic shift from where we're at right now.
We thought, let's do an easy one, a breezy one,
a fun one,
a positive one.
Yeah. I think that this time in history is very depressing, and I feel depressed, and I would love to hang out with a bear that just likes some freaking honey. And I think some tears will be shed. There are 6 movies. We are going by the they're all on Disney Plus except for Christopher Robin, but there is a list on Wikipedia that has all 6 like technical movies. Cool. So that's what we're going to be covering next. It's going to be so great.
Great.
That's all.
Very, very excited. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. This was so much fun.
Yeah, thank you
for being on. We'll have you on again. Definitely when Jurassic.
Treasure.
Yes.
You got dibs on National Treasure, and whenever the 3rd Jurassic World comes out, you'll have to, we'll have to have you on to
and
do
all
that as
9
well.
Fast and Furious movies. I'm there.
That's true.
Yeah.
I forgot you're a big proponent of us covering that series.
It's all about family, you know.
Yeah. We're so worried about that one, but we'll get to it one of these days. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye.
Bye.